You don't realize it, but your life is often ruled by what you don't see inside yourself. The unconscious shapes your feelings, thoughts, and choices without your knowing. You call it fate, bad luck, or just who you are. But the truth is, until you bring the unconscious into the light, it will keep directing you. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most emotional patterns start in childhood, before you even knew who you were. Your early relationships, especially with parents or caregivers, set the foundation for how you think love and connection work. You learn to survive by adapting, by hiding your true feelings to get approval and safety. This survival strategy works at first, but becomes a trap. It creates invisible puppet strings you don't notice, pulling you toward repeating the same emotional scripts again and again. You might think you are unlucky in love, or that you just attract the wrong people. But really, you are being pulled by patterns buried deep inside. For example, Emily always felt she had to fix others to be loved. She grew up in a home where love was conditional on being perfect. As an adult, she attracted partners who needed fixing but never gave back. She stayed, exhausted and unhappy, wondering why she always ended up the caretaker and never the cared for. Emily's story is common. It shows how unconscious patterns create emotional loops that feel impossible to escape. You might not see it yet, but these patterns rule how you set boundaries, how you trust, and how you feel about yourself. Ignoring them means you keep running on a treadmill, repeating the same mistakes. That's why it feels like you are cursed or stuck in a fate you cannot change. But you are not cursed. You are just unaware. Awareness is the first step. When you start to notice your emotional triggers, your repetitive reactions, you begin to wake up from the unconscious control. It's uncomfortable at first. You might feel shame, anger, or sadness for what you've ignored for so long. But this discomfort is necessary for real change. Once you start making the unconscious conscious, you can choose differently. You can rewrite the script. You can stop the cycle. And when you do, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of your past. You become the author of your future. This journey is not easy, but it's the only way to freedom. No one else can do it for you. It starts inside, with courage to look honestly at yourself. You begin by asking, what patterns keep showing up in my life? When do I feel trapped, drained, or confused in relationships? What childhood messages am I still believing that no longer serve me? These questions lead you deeper, beyond surface fixes. You learn that your emotional patterns are not random, but messages from your unconscious. Messages that want to be heard, understood, and healed. By bringing these patterns to light, you gain insight and clarity. You learn to see yourself with compassion, not judgment. You can stop blaming others or circumstances for your pain. Instead, you take responsibility for your healing. This means facing fears you've avoided. Fears of rejection, abandonment, or being alone. Fears that made you cling to unhealthy relationships or people-pleasing behaviors. But the real truth is, you are not defined by your fears or past wounds. You have the strength to break free. You have the power to change your story. Emily, after years of confusion, started therapy and journaling. She uncovered her unconscious belief that she was only worthy if she was needed. This awareness helped her set boundaries and leave toxic relationships. She felt scared, but also free for the first time. Her story shows what happens when you make the unconscious conscious. You take the first step toward healing and true self-love. You stop repeating the same patterns. You stop calling fate what is really your choice. The hidden origins of your emotional patterns are not your destiny. They are clues waiting for your attention. When you listen, you start to heal. And when you heal, you become who you were truly meant to be. Your emotional patterns don't just appear out of nowhere. They come from what you never learned to face inside. You hide pain, fear, and rejection deep in your unconscious. These feelings don't disappear. They stay locked away, waiting to be understood. Until then, they control how you react. You might replay the same arguments, choose partners who hurt you, or feel anxious without knowing why. This is the unconscious speaking through your emotions. You might overthink every message, every word, trying to make sense of your feelings. But the real root is hidden. When you keep avoiding it, the cycle continues. This is why overthinking can trap you in anxiety. You feel stuck, like you're drowning in your thoughts. Your mind races, trying to fix what your heart cannot face. Maria always doubted her worth. She replayed conversations endlessly, wondering if she said the right thing. She feared rejection so much, she said yes to everything, even when it drained her. Maria's fear came from childhood, where love felt conditional on being perfect. She never learned to trust her own feelings. This made her anxious and exhausted. She felt lost in a sea of other people's needs. Her story shows how repression of real feelings causes emotional fatigue. You might feel tired after social interactions, not because you dislike people, but because you disconnect from your true self. You say yes to others, but no to yourself. This creates a silent conflict inside. You want approval, but crave authenticity. You want connection, but fear rejection. This inner tension wears you down. Discipline can help break this cycle. It's not about forcing yourself, but about learning to listen to your inner voice. Setting small boundaries, saying no when needed, and giving yourself permission to rest. This builds emotional strength. Tom struggled with saying no. He worked long hours, sacrificed his hobbies, and ignored his feelings to please others. At first, it felt selfish to set limits. But gradually, he realized discipline was self-respect. He started journaling, noticing when he felt overwhelmed. He learned to pause before agreeing. Tom's discipline freed him from endless overthinking. He could act from calm, not fear. Breaking free from emotional loops requires facing uncomfortable truths. You have to meet your fears head-on. Fear of loneliness, fear of being disliked, fear of not being enough. But these fears lose power when you shine light on them. Therapy, mindfulness, and honest conversations help bring unconscious patterns to the surface. This process is not quick or easy. You will feel vulnerable, exposed, and uncertain. But it's necessary. Each time you confront a hidden fear, you weaken its hold. You grow stronger, more grounded in who you truly are. Your emotional reactions become choices, not automatic responses. You can rewrite your story, creating new patterns based on self-awareness and self-love. Breaking the cycle means choosing yourself, even when it feels scary. It means valuing your feelings, even when others don't understand. It means saying no, so you can say yes to what truly matters. When you do this, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You become the driver. You steer toward healing, growth, and authentic connection. You become free from the unconscious chains. Your life becomes your own. Your unconscious patterns shape your reactions. More than you realize, they are like hidden scripts, playing behind the scenes of your life. You believe you are making conscious choices, but often, these are just rehearsed responses from old wounds. When you repeat the same emotional mistakes, it's not because you're broken, but because you haven't made the unconscious conscious. This is Jung's core message. Until you face these hidden parts, they will direct your life, and you will mistake fate for freedom. You might feel stuck in toxic relationships, overwhelmed by anxiety, or frustrated by your inability to break free. This is the unconscious steering your ship. Emma kept dating men who treated her poorly, wondering why she attracted the same pain again and again. She didn't realize her childhood fear of abandonment was running the show. Her unconscious belief said, "If I don't suffer, I'm not loved." So she repeated this pattern without knowing it. This is not a curse, but a call to awareness. To break the cycle, you must become curious about your triggers. When you feel hurt, ask yourself, what past wound does this echo? When jealousy or anger flare, what story is beneath it? Most people run from these feelings, but that only strengthens their power. You avoid pain, but it grows in the shadows. Overthinking becomes a way to avoid feeling. You analyze endlessly, hoping to control emotions you refuse to face. But true control comes from acceptance, not avoidance. Discipline here means facing discomfort with courage. It means setting aside time for self-reflection, meditation, or therapy. It means learning to sit with your feelings without judgment or escape. John always pushed away his anger, afraid it would make him bad. He bottled it up until it exploded, in outbursts he regretted. When he started journaling, he saw his anger was a sign of unmet needs. This awareness helped him change how he responded. He stopped blaming himself and started listening. Breaking emotional loops also means creating new habits. Replace self-sabotage with self-care. Replace negative self-talk with compassion. Replace avoidance with presence. This takes time and patience. You will stumble, fall back into old ways, but each time you return, you build resilience. Your brain rewires, your heart heals. You become more conscious, more free. Your relationships improve because you no longer project old wounds onto others. You communicate honestly, set healthy boundaries, and attract people who respect your true self. This is the path to individuation, the process Jung described as becoming who you really are. It's a lifelong journey, but every step brings you closer to freedom. You're not cursed, you're just unaware. Awareness is the first key to breaking the cycle. You hold the power to change your story. You can rewrite your emotional patterns with courage and discipline. You can choose growth over fear. You can live a life shaped by conscious choices, not unconscious programming. This is your path to healing, to awakening, to true self-love. Your emotions often feel like they are controlling you, but they are actually trying to tell you something important. Anxiety, sadness, anger, these are signals from your unconscious. Ignoring them doesn't make them go away. Instead, they build up inside you until they overflow in ways you can't control. This is why you keep overthinking and feeling stuck. You think your mind is helping you, but it's just trying to protect you from pain you refuse to face. When you detach from your feelings, you disconnect from yourself. This causes confusion and anxiety. You become a stranger in your own life. Take Mia's story for example. She always pushed her feelings away, thinking she was strong. But inside, she was overwhelmed by fear and loneliness. She couldn't sleep because her mind raced nonstop. She thought overthinking was a way to solve problems, but it only trapped her in endless worry. Mia didn't realize her fear of abandonment was at the root of her anxiety. She was afraid to face this pain, so she stayed busy, avoiding silence. But the silence kept calling her back. The more she ran, the louder it became. This is what Freud meant when he said anxiety is a signal of danger to the psyche. It's your mind's alarm system. It warns you to pay attention to what you're avoiding. Most people want to silence this alarm. They distract themselves with social media, work, or toxic relationships. But distractions only mask the deeper pain. You must learn to listen to your inner voice, even when it scares you. This takes courage and discipline. Discipline means setting boundaries with your distractions, allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable. It means sitting with your feelings without judgment or escape. This is where true healing begins. As you face your emotions, they lose their power. You start to understand why you feel the way you do. You can then respond instead of react. You learn to regulate your emotions instead of being controlled by them. This creates freedom. You become the master of your emotional world, not its prisoner. Jung believed that making the unconscious conscious is the key to this freedom. When you bring hidden feelings into the light, you stop repeating the same painful patterns. You stop calling it fate and start calling it choice. John used to feel anxious every time someone criticized him. He thought it meant he was worthless. But in therapy, he discovered this fear came from his childhood, where he needed to please his strict parents to feel safe. Once he understood this, he worked on separating his true self from his past fears. It wasn't easy. At times, the old feelings would resurface, but now he could see them and not be overwhelmed. He practiced deep breathing, mindfulness, and self-compassion. Slowly, he reclaimed his peace. This is the path you can take too. It requires patience and kindness towards yourself. You are not broken. You are simply carrying unseen burdens that need healing. By facing your emotions, you honor your true self. You grow stronger and more whole. This is not a quick fix, but a lifelong journey. Every step you take towards awareness is a step towards freedom. You can break free from the chains of anxiety and overthinking. You can find peace in your inner world. You can live fully with courage and clarity. It all begins when you decide to face your truth. You might think you are cursed to repeat the same mistakes, but it's not a curse. It's your unconscious mind leading you on autopilot. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your unconscious holds patterns you learned early in life. These patterns shape how you react to people and situations. You act out what you never fully understood. If you grew up in a home where love felt conditional, you might have learned to hide your true feelings, to be accepted. You may have thought, I must please others to be loved. This became your default behavior. Even when it hurts you, you keep doing it because it feels safer than facing the unknown of being rejected or alone. Take Emily's story. She always attracted partners who ignored her needs. She gave and gave, hoping to get love back, but she only felt more empty and unseen. She didn't realize she was repeating her childhood pattern. Her parents only showed love when she was good and never upset them. Her unconscious learned to avoid conflict at the cost of her own voice. Breaking this cycle requires awareness. You must identify which parts of you are acting out old fears, not present truths. Overthinking often comes from this confusion. Your mind tries to solve problems that aren't really yours to solve, to spin stories, to explain feelings you don't understand. But these stories keep you trapped. You might worry, what if I'm not enough? I need to fix this, or lose them. These thoughts are just echoes of past experiences. You can challenge them by bringing them to light. Journaling helps. Writing your thoughts down can reveal hidden fears. Therapy is powerful. A skilled therapist can guide you to uncover unconscious patterns. Mindfulness practice helps you stay present when old fears arise. It trains your brain to notice when you're reacting instead of responding. Setting boundaries is key. You learn to say no to behaviors that drain you. You start to value your needs as much as others. This shift is hard. You might lose some relationships that depended on your old patterns, but you gain your true self back. You become whole. Your life feels freer and more authentic. You stop blaming fate and take responsibility for your choices. You realize you're not a victim of your past. You're a creator of your future. Mark once felt trapped in toxic friendships. He constantly tried to keep peace, even when it hurt him. After learning about unconscious patterns, he noticed his fear of abandonment. He began to set limits and speak up for himself. It was painful, but liberating. His true friends stayed, and new, healthier connections formed. The cycle broke. You can break your cycle too. Awareness is your first step. Watch your reactions without judgment. Is this from now or from then? Practice patience with yourself. Change doesn't happen overnight, but every moment you choose consciousness, you rewrite your story. You move from being controlled to being in control. You create space for new, healthier patterns. You become the person you truly want to be. This journey is tough, but worth it, because when you break free, you don't just survive, you thrive. You live with intention, not fear. You become whole, and that is power. This journey is tough, but worth every step you take, because breaking free means reclaiming your life. It means no longer being a prisoner to fears and patterns you didn't choose. You begin to live with clarity, with purpose. You learn to trust yourself, to listen to your inner voice. You become your own guide, instead of following old scripts. This is true freedom, to be who you really are. It won't always be easy. There will be moments of doubt and discomfort, but those moments are signs you are growing, transforming. Every small victory builds your strength. Every act of courage brings you closer to your true self. Remember, you are not alone in this. Many have walked this path and found peace on the other side. You too can break the cycle. You can heal the past and create a future full of authenticity and joy. So take the first step today. Look inward with kindness. Face your patterns with courage. And watch yourself become the person you were always meant to be. This is your life, your story, your power. Embrace it,